Hi, this is Keith Ward with Visual Studio Magazine, and joining me right now is Walt Ritscher. Walt, thank you for being on with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What do you do exactly when you're switching to mobile? I mean, what is the process? How do things change when you're thinking about starting to develop for multiple screen sizes, for example?
You're asking a question I think that every person who's moving to this new space thinks about, or they should think about. And mobile, I think, is the biggest change of all. Mobile and the tablets. For one, the form factors change enormously. You've got, you can build an app for a desktop. On the other hand, you can take that same app and scale it down to a tablet PC, multiple sizes. You know, there's multiple sizes of the iPad now. Microsoft's probably going to have a smaller device. And you're right, the design process. How do you think about design? I think there's two ways you could approach it. A lot of people want to build an app that runs on multiple screens, and they also want to build it to run on multiple devices. Let's just talk about multiple screen sizes for right now. So do you take the approach where you start with the big screen and then scale your pages down to fit on the smaller devices? I would call it the subtractive approach. Where you're removing elements saying, well, this app bar won't fit on the screen, so let's take that off? Or do you start designing by looking at the smallest screen and say, let's build the minimum viable application for this, the UI, and then add features to that? So we're building up. So as we detect we're moving to a larger screen, we add features.
Okay. Do you need really to be a designer to build apps nowadays for the mobile sort of revolution that's going on? Is it something that maybe you need to pay more attention to than you ever have before?
I think so. I think the expectation, especially if you're selling an app in the app stores, I think there's a certain expectation of quality. And I think all UI developers are designers. I don't think in the old days, a lot of people didn't call themselves that. They didn't think of themselves as UI designers. But you have to. In the old days, a lot of us were happy with just building a grid of buttons and a grid of text boxes and a grid of labels, and they were pretty ugly. They always used to joke about the gray, the battleship gray colors. But with the high resolution displays and the high color resolution you have now, you got to think about that. And so even picking the right color sometimes the right colors can be soothing or exciting, and I think there's a lot to be said there. But a lot of small development shops don't have any money for a designer, and that's the dilemma.
There's a tendency to think that building apps for the desktop is harder. There's more code, there's more involved than building mobile device apps because they're generally more lightweight and less code. Is that an accurate reflection?
I don't think so. I think building a decent app, a good app that works well for the users, is going to be hard work no matter what platform or what devices, what displays you use. Right? You have to, when you're building for a small device, you have to take its limitations into effect, and that means you have to think about new features. Microsoft brings out these platforms and they have all these built-in tools, but you have to figure out how to leverage them. And we haven't even talked about the other things like touch and the sensors that are built in. And it's a whole new world, and I think it's only going to get even more interesting as we start getting the sensor cameras in our devices. Right, a lot of the phones now have a camera on both sides. What if we had a sensor camera in there like the Kinect does, where your device could detect what you're doing with your little handheld? Right? I don't think we're going to be waving at our phone like we do at the Kinect. Hey, we touch it, but then if we could have it pick up our facial expressions, maybe that would help with text. With speech recognition, I should say, because they can watch your lips move.
Right. It's kind of an exciting time to be a developer, isn't it, with all this new stuff that's happening?
It is. I can't wait to get up every morning and read my RSS feed to see what new devices are coming out.
Very good. Walt Ritscher, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.